Right now, we're standing at the base of Carl Vinson's officer brow, getting ready to head aboard the ship. As we mentioned before, safety is paramount during your tour. As you proceed up ladder wells, as we call stairs, make sure you have 3 points of contact at all times. As we say in the Navy, 3 for the ship, 1 for you. Carl Vinson is a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, one of 10 operational in the United States Navy. Clocking in at 36 years old, Carl Vinson is the 3rd such aircraft carrier commissioned by the Navy. Named for the father of the two-ocean Navy, the Honorable Carl Vinson, a congressman from Georgia, we are the only ship named after a member of the House of Representatives, a man whose career was marked by an advocacy for America's naval might and supremacy in all things maritime. As we walk the deck plates today, think about Carl Vinson's legacy of service, coming from humble beginnings in rural Georgia and rising to become one of the most influential legislators in American history. Now that we know who Carl Vinson is and just what he stood for, let's head out to the quarterdeck and find out about the people who are keeping this ship operational today. Right now, we're standing on Carl Vinson's ceremonial quarterdeck. Since the days of sail, ships have retained a special place to welcome guests and dignitaries in an official manner. Behind me, you'll note that Carl Vinson displays 4 photo boards. These boards highlight the people who make up the chain of command aboard this warship. Directly behind me, you will see the photo board for Commander Carrier Strike Group 1. The Rear Admiral in charge of Carrier Strike Group 1 is overall in charge of the Carrier Strike Group. Behind this photo board is the USS Carl Vinson chain of command. This chain of command is responsible for those sailors assigned to the aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson. Moving on to the other side, we have the Commander Destroyer Squadron 1 photo board. This board, headed up by the Commodore, or Desron, is in charge of the surface and subsurface picture around the Carl Vinson. And finally, we have Carrier Air Wing 2, Carl Vinson's offensive punch. These officers are in charge of operating and maintaining the aircraft embarked aboard this ship. Right now, we find ourselves in Carl Vinson's hangar bay. Although it looks like one big space, it's important to remember that our hangar bay is made into 3 smaller bays. These bays can be divided at a moment's notice using large, very powerful doors in case of a fire or an emergency. The hangar bay is also home to 3 damage control lockers, where the crew can fight the ship, as we say, to combat any casualty that we may encounter while at sea. This is a space that can be best thought of as a garage. Here on the Carl Vinson, we operate many aircraft, and those aircraft often need maintenance. At sea, this space is abuzz with the sound of maintainers fixing, repairing, and keeping their aircraft ready to fly. After the aircraft are prepped and ready to go, the Carl Vinson has 4 ACEs, or aircraft elevators. These elevators are capable of lifting the aircraft from the garage down here to the flight deck up above, where they're launched or covered to complete whatever missions may arise. These doors can be a little bit tricky for someone who hasn't used them before. After our climb, we've made it to Carl Vinson's flight deck, and this is where the action happens. Those 4 aircraft elevators that we talked about lead right here to where Carl Vinson sailors launch and recover aircraft, day or night, in many different types of sea conditions. Right behind me is one of Carl Vinson's 4 catapults, or CATs as we call them in the business. These powerful pieces of equipment are capable of getting an aircraft from 0 to 150 miles an hour in just 2.5 seconds, enough energy to get off the deck and into the air. The piece of flight deck equipment right behind me is called a jet blast deflector, or JBDs as they're most commonly known around the flight deck. These very important pieces of equipment are a key piece of the puzzle in allowing Carl Vinson to conduct simultaneous launches and recoveries on the flight deck. The purpose of this piece of equipment is personnel safety. When an aircraft is coming up on power, this piece of equipment raises to an upright position to allow personnel to safely pass behind the aircraft where they otherwise wouldn't be able to go due to the hot exhaust of the aircraft. According to the time-tested laws of physics, what goes up must come down. And here on Carl Vinson, these bad boys are responsible for making sure the second half of that equation is conducted safely. This is a piece of Carl Vinson's arresting gear. On board, we have 4 of these, known as wires, spanning the flight deck. During flight operations, these wires are responsible for bringing aircraft to a slow and controlled stop. When we're flying, pilots aim for the number 3 wire. Now we're standing in front of Carl Vinson's national ensign. Since the ship is in port, the ensign is displayed on the flagpole behind me. When we're underway, we display the national ensign proudly 24 hours a day, high atop the island. When you're on your tour today, remind your family members that it's this very spot that we use to display America's national colors in faraway ports, such as Busan, South Korea, Guam, or even Vietnam. A walk on the flight deck is never a walk in the park, and part of that is due to the surface that's right beneath your feet. Whether or not you've noticed it, our flight deck is covered with a very special material that we call non-skid. The name is pretty self-explanatory, but this hard surface helps us to keep our aircraft and personnel safe and in place when the ship is conducting operations in many different types of weather and sea conditions. To my right, we have what's known as a pad eye. These circles that dot the flight deck and the hangar bay are used to secure aircraft and equipment when the ship is underway. Behind me is the door to flight deck control. From this position, the aircraft handling officer is responsible for supervising the activities of USS Carl Vinson's flight deck. On the flight deck, since the pace is so fast, we use different colored shirts or jerseys to help delineate what exactly every sailor is doing. Running through those jerseys can help us understand the many roles of the flight deck. The yellow jerseys are responsible for moving aircraft and directing them from one spot to the other. The blue jerseys, working with those yellow jerseys, are responsible for physically chalking and chaining and walking with the aircraft, as well as operating Carl Vinson's aircraft elevators. Next, we have the red shirts. Those are aviation ordnancemen, as well as flight deck crash and salvage. These are sailors who load bombs and weaponry onto aircraft and respond to fires and emergencies, respectively. The brown shirts serve as plane captains. Green jerseys are aircraft launch and recovery equipment, as well as photographers. Purple jerseys are fuelies. These proud grapes run back and forth on the flight deck all day long, making sure aircraft are topped off and ready to go. And finally, white jerseys are corpsmen, as well as personnel responsible for administration of the flight deck. Directly behind me is Carl Vinson's Island. It serves many purposes. It's home to a myriad of radars and antennas. It's where personnel safely supervise flight operations. And last but not least, it's home to Carl Vinson's navigation bridge, where a team of highly trained sailors operate the ship and navigate it safely to where it needs to be. From here, a team of highly trained officer and enlisted sailors use navigation equipment to safely get Carl Vinson from one place to another while still meeting flight operations requirements. From the bridge, we can tell how far other ships are from us, the direction that we're going and that we'd like to go, as well as communicate with other ships in our area. Where I'm standing now is where the helmsman would stand if we were underway. This watch station is responsible for physically steering Carl Vinson left or right, depending on the orders from the officer of the deck and the conning officer. When the orders are received, this wheel right here is turned, and it gets Carl Vinson exactly where we need to go in a safe manner. To my right, we have the lee helm console. This console, now a touchscreen, is responsible for ordering the speed of USS Carl Vinson, once again under the direction of the officer of the deck and the conning officer. When the sailor here inputs the combination into this screen, which is illuminated underway, an order is received deep below the ship, and sailors specially trained in throttle control give steam to turn the propellers and push us ahead or astern. Moving on the bridge, we have the watch position of the bosun's mate of the watch. The bosun's mate of the watch is responsible for the good order and discipline of enlisted watchstanders on the bridge, and they're also the keepers of naval tradition and the passers of the word on board Carl Vinson. They use their pipe to sound traditional naval calls, ring bells to mark time, and pass other various announcements on the 1MC, or announcing system, as the day goes on underway. At this table, known as the chart table, the enlisted assistants to the navigators, or quartermasters, work. They're responsible for updating the ship's deck log, or her official record of activity, and helping chart the course towards Carl Vinson's next planned waypoints. After taking some time to look around the bridge, it's time to head back down. Well, we've reached the end of our tour today. After your time on board, I truly hope you have a better understanding of what we do here on Carl Vinson, as well as why aircraft carriers are vital to America's national security. Remember, as a tour guide, it's on you to project the best of Carl Vinson. Remember to have a squared-away uniform, a sharp haircut, and present everything you know about what makes America's favorite aircraft carrier America's greatest aircraft carrier. Thanks for watching, and remember, you're part of the greatest crew on the waterfront, so stay sharp out there, Carl Vinson.